Why does Jesus go there? More on that on today's Midweek Meditation. Hey there, I'm Pastor Matt Dobler, pastor of Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church in Norfolk, Virginia. If you're ever traveling through this part of Virginia, or if you happen to get stationed here in Norfolk, we'd love to have you come visit our congregation. You can find out more about us by visiting our website, tlcnorfolk.com. So, our gospel reading for this Sunday is the familiar account in John chapter 4 of Jesus and the Samaritan woman at the well. And Jesus and this Samaritan woman are going to have a conversation. And it's going to be a bit all over the place, actually. A little sociology, a little history, some technical discussion about how wells work, even some theological talk. And yet, in the way that the Lord engages in and guides the conversation, we discover something very beautiful about what he has come to give to both this woman and to us. But before we get into the details of that conversation, it's worth noting something that John tells us right at the very beginning of this story. John writes that Jesus had to pass through Samaria. He had to pass through Samaria. Now, that might not sound very significant at first, because if you look at a map of the region, Samaria sits right between Judea, that's in the south where Jerusalem was, and Galilee all the way in the north where Jesus often spent a lot of his time. And so traveling through Samaria might seem logical, because it was the quickest way to get from point A to point B, from Jerusalem to Galilee, right through Samaria. But here's something that's interesting to note. Most Jews didn't take that route because Samaria was inhabited by Samaritans. And those two groups had a very long and very bitter history between one another. And so the hostility between Jews and Samaritans ran deep, so deep, in fact, that most Jews traveling north or south would go out of their way to avoid passing through Samaritan territory at all. And it wasn't easy to do. They had to cross the Jordan River 2 times in order to do it. They had to add at least a whole other day to their journey. But they would be free from contacting any Samaritans, and to them, that price was worth it. So when John tells us that Jesus had to go through Samaria, he's pointing out something that's very significant and very intentional on the part of Jesus. And that purpose becomes clear when we see where Jesus stops to rest. John tells us that Jesus and his disciples stopped near a well in Samaria. It's not just any well, it's Jacob's well. This well carried a very deep significance for the people who lived in this part of the region. People knew about this well. I mean, for centuries, travelers, villagers, they would all come here to draw water. It was a place where people went to again and again. It was a place, you might say, of daily necessity. What I'm saying is that if you wanted to avoid contact with Samaritans, this was not the place to stop and hang out. It's kind of like the gas station or convenience store that's in a bad part of town. You might stop there if you had to, but you're going to get what you need and get going. You're not going to wait there and have a picnic. But this well is where Jesus chooses to go. And this well is where Jesus chooses to wait. So why did Jesus come here? Why did he have to pass through Samaria? Why did he stop at this particular well? What is he waiting there for? Well, as we'll see this Sunday, this journey wasn't accidental at all. The Son of God often goes precisely where others refuse to go. The Word made flesh takes that Word into unwelcome places. Jesus goes on purpose to meet people where they are, all so that he can offer them a gift that they never imagined asking for. We'll explore this encounter that he has with this Samaritan woman as we gather together around God's Word and around God's gifts this Sunday. Until then, the Lord be with you.